Over to you, Lamees.
Pandemics have the First World War was among the deadliest conflicts in the history and killed about 20 million people. But the outbreak of Spanish flu, which began as the war ended, turned out to be far more destructive, claiming the lives of about 15 million people. Uh, Pandemics have had a great influence in shaping human society and politics throughout the history, from the Justinian plague of 6th century to the Spanish flu of last century. Now, as a new strain of coronavirus has spread throughout the world, we should know when did it become a pandemic, and when it did, what happened. So, what is a pandemic? Pandemic is a disease which is prevalent over the whole country or the world. It can also be called as a global epidemic. Few recent pandemics were the 2009 H1N1 pandemic, the 1967 pandemic caused by H3N2 virus, and the 1957-58 pandemic caused by H2N2 virus. But the worst pandemic in the human history was the 1918 influenza pandemic caused by H1N1 virus. It is also referred to as the Spanish flu. It infected 500 million people, and one person in every 3 people was infected. It came in 3 waves. The first wave hit in the early months of the year 1918 and receded within a few months. Then, in the August of same year, the second wave emerged. The virus was mutated into a far more deadlier strain, and the mortality rates were several times higher. Then, the third wave emerged in early months of 1990. Unlike coronavirus, where the mortality rates are fairly high in older people, in Spanish flu, the people between the age group of 20 to 40 years were more severely affected. And out of 50 million people killed globally, 10 to 20 million people were killed in India alone. India was fifth worst hit country then. Speaking of the ongoing pandemic, the coronavirus did not pop up recently. These are the family of large viruses that have been around for a long time. It belongs to the family Coronaviridae and subfamily Orthocoronavirinae. The name corona was given due to its crown-like appearance, and it is a spherical pleomorphic particle, envelope particle containing single-stranded RNA. The glycoprotein envelope helps in the attachment to the host cell. This family of viruses infect mammals and birds, and they cause respiratory tract infection ranging from mild to lethal. It includes 4 genera. These are alpha coronavirus, beta, gamma, and delta coronaviruses. Out of these, only alpha and beta are capable of infecting humans. The earliest reports of illness caused by coronavirus occurred in late 1920s, when the acute respiratory tract infection of chickens emerged in North America. Human coronaviruses were discovered in 1960s. There are 7 known strains. There are 7 known strains of human coronaviruses. The first strain was B814. It was discovered in the year 1965 from a boy with common cold in the United Kingdom. It was referred to as the pathogen, which was virtually unrelated to any known virus of human respiratory tract. Then in the following year, that's 1966, the strain 229E was discovered from a medical student in the University of Chicago. Then in the year 1967, the strain OC43 was discovered at National Institute of Allergy and Infections. Then almost after 3 decades, the researchers reported the outbreak of SARS epidemic, which began in southern China. Now, in the year 2004, another strain was discovered, that is NL63 in Netherlands, and then in the year 2005, HKU1 strain was discovered in Hong Kong University. Later, in 2012, another virus was discovered in Erasmus Medical Center in Netherlands. They named it Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. It was isolated from a man from Saudi Arabia with pneumonia and kidney failure. And now, the SARS CoV-2 in 2019. It is also called novel coronavirus. Novel because this is the strain which was previously not identified in humans. It was a provisional name given to the virus until the permanent name was decided. Out of this 7 coronaviruses, OC43, HKU1, 229E, and NL63, these 4 strains called mild sicknesses cause mild sickness, but SARS, MERS, and SARS-CoV-2 cause severe illness. The SARS epidemic of 2003 affected 26 countries, and it resulted in 8,000 cases and more than 774 deaths. It causes symptoms such as fever, headache, and respiratory tract problems such as shortness of breath and cough. The mortality rates are 9.2%. And then the MERS was identified in 2012, uh, and nearly 2,500 cases have been reported in people who live or travel Middle East. This strain of virus is comparatively less contagious, but far more deadly when compared to SARS. And so far, around 860 deaths have been reported, and the mortality rate is 35%. It causes symptoms similar to that of SARS, along with kidney failure. And now, and also there are no licensed vaccines for SARS and MERS till now. Now, about the SARS CoV-2, as of today, 34.5 million cases have been reported, and nearly 1.02 million deaths have been reported, and the mortality rate is 3.4%. Now, coronaviruses are some of the largest family of RNA viruses, and they have more genes and more opportunities to mutate. The single-stranded genome contains 29,891 nucleotides, encoding 9,860 amino acids. The nucleotide sequencing of SARS-CoV-2 is 96% identical to the horseshoe bat coronavirus, that is RATG13, suggesting that the SARS-CoV-2 originated from a bat species, Rhinophilus affinis. It is not clear if there is an intermediate host between bats and humans. However, the most prevalent hypothesis suggests that the virus acquired one or several mutations, allowing it to cross species. DNA viruses generally have proof-reading mechanisms, whereas RNA viruses don't. So when an RNA virus replicates, it is much likely to have mistakes or mutations. These mutations are usually useless or at times harmful, but sometimes these mutations make the virus better suited for certain environments, such as the new host species. And epidemics often occur when the virus jumps species. For example, the Ebola virus was transmitted from fruit bats to humans. And also the SARS virus, it was transmitted from bats to civet cats and then to humans. When a species is evolving with the pathogen, here the SARS-CoV-2 was evolving with the bat species. The population survives, and also the virus survives, and the population survives without much illness. But when the virus jumps species, then we have got a real problem. Now, one of the biggest problems we have is the high transmissibility rate. Why is SARS-CoV-2 spreading when SARS was contained? In spite of having so many similarities with the SARS virus, they have highly related genetic material, and both of them have a median incubation period of 5 days, and both of them affect lower respiratory tract, and the primary mode of transmission is through droplets. But the SARS was controlled by symptom-based case detection and subsequent testing to guide isolation and quarantine. Similar control efforts have not succeeded in containing the SARS-CoV-2. It could be because the SARS-CoV-2 is shared even before the symptoms appear, and 80% of infectious people are either asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic. And out of the 7 known human coronavirus strains, the 4 cause very mild illness, but they are highly contagious. On the other hand, SARS and MERS cause severe illness and severe complications. Now, the SARS-CoV-2 has got features of each. They are highly contagious and also severely affect lungs and other organ systems, and also they cause severe complications. Another reason for high transmissibility rates could be nobody is immune to the new virus, and there are so many potential hosts that it does not need ideal conditions to multiply. Now, another question arises: how many more cases can be generated from one case? So the measure of the expected number of cases that can be generated from one case is called basic reproductive number. It reflects the severity and potential of the infectious disease. If the basic reproductive number is less than 1, then the disease will eventually die. The WHO published the basic reproductive number for SARS to be 1.4 to 2.5. It is 0.5 to 1 with MERS and 2 to 4 with the SARS and 1918 epidemic. It is a prime tool by which the scientists quantify the extent of an outbreak. Now let us see how the virus spreads. According to the Society of Healthcare Epidemiology of America, it spreads from person to person. The precise mechanism of how it spread is still not clear. However, the most experts say that the primary routes are either are through droplets or direct contact. However, on the other hand, the concerns continue to be raised about the potential for airborne infection. Based on the epidemiological studies, the SARS-CoV-2 is not acting like a classical airborne infection either, like measles and varicella. But the airborne transmission is the main mode of transmission in hospitals and during medical procedures that generate aerosols. There is a hypothesis called physics of exhaled air and flow physics. This suggests that number of respiratory droplets evaporate and generate microscopic aerosols, making it even more dangerous. Another mode of transmission could be through fomines. Despite the consistent evidence of survival of SARS-CoV-2 and contamination of surfaces by SARS-CoV-2, there are no specific reports that directly demonstrate the fomine transmission. About the orofecal transmission, it can be another route for transmission. In a review of 59 separate studies, 37 studies reported positive for SARS-CoV-2 based on RT-PCR. The viral RNA can be detected from fecal samples even after 30 days of onset of symptoms, when even the nasopharyngeal specimens are negative. According to WHO, it is unlikely that the SARS-CoV-2 can be spread through food. There is no evidence to date that the virus can be transmitted via food. They need potential human or animal hosts to multiply. Speaking of animals, regarding the uncertainty of transmission, the CDC recommends the pets to be kept away from other animals outside the home. However, there have been no reports of domesticated animals transfer SARS-CoV-2 to humans. And lastly, many diseases are transmitted from mother to the child. This is called through placenta or the breast milk. This is called the vertical transmission. According to CDC, Lancet, and NCBI, the women who are pregnant women who are affected with SARS-CoV-2 are much likely to have adverse effects when compared to women who are not pregnant. However, based on the current limited data, there is no evidence for intrauterine transmission. And in conclusion, I would like to recommend everyone to take droplet contact as well as airborne precautions, as nothing is certain. The prevention is so much better than healing because it saves the labor of being sick. As Benjamin Franklin once said, an ounce of prevention is worth pound of cure. And that brings us to the end. I sincerely appreciate your time and attention today. Thank you.